Hello, my name is Rebecca Hanna, and today I'm going to be demonstrating how to use place value to round numbers to the nearest 10. To understand this lesson, students are going to know how to round to the nearest 10. Rounding to the nearest 10 means that we need to find the closest number to the given number that ends in 0. An example of rounding to the nearest 10 is numbers like 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. Now, understanding how to use place values to round to the nearest 10, we first need to go over place values and remember which number is in which place. So if I have the number 37, the 3 is in my tens place, so I have 3 tens, and the 7 is in my ones place. I have 7 ones and 3 tens. For the number 18, I have 1 10 and 8 ones. Let's do one more. If I have the number 16, I have 1 10 and 6 ones. If I just have the number 4, this is a ones, or 1. Now, to use place value to round to the nearest 10, we need to know that if the number in the ones place is 4 or less, we're going to round down. If the number in the ones place is 5 or above, we're going to round up. And this is also on these number lines demonstrated. So if the number in my ones place is 4 or less, we're going to round down. If the number is 5 or above, we're going to round up. Now let's look at these numbers here and go over whether we're going to round up or down and what the number to the nearest 10 would be if we rounded them. So for the number 58, I can see that the number in the ones place is an 8. The number in the ones place is an 8, and this number is higher, 5 or above, so we're going to round up. The closest 10 to 58 is 60. 58 rounded to the nearest 10 is 60. Next I have the number 26. The 2 is in the tens place and the 6 is in the ones place. Because the 6 in my ones place is 5 or above, we're going to round up. The closest 10 to the number 26 is 30. 26 rounded to the closest 10 is 30. The next number, we just have a 9. Because it's a number on its own, it is already a 1. Because the 9 is 5 or above, we're going to round up. The closest 10 to 10 to 9 is 10. Our next number is 43. The 4 is in our tens place, so we have 4 tens and 3 ones. Because the number in our ones place is 4 or less, we round down. The closest 10 to the number 43 is 40. Our last example here is the number 72. In this number, we have 7 tens and 2 ones. Because the number in our ones is 4 or less, we're going to round down to the nearest 10. Rounding down to the nearest 10 would give us about 70. Students can also use manipulatives to learn how to use place value to round to the nearest 10. So if I provided students with base 10 blocks and I gave them the number 27, they could build 27 on the base 10 block. So they have 10, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And because when I counted these, I have 7 in my ones place, I know that 7 is greater than 5, so we're going to round up. So to round to the nearest 10 for the number 27, we are going to add 3 to get 30. (27) rounded to the nearest 10 is 30. The next number we have is the number 13. So using my base 10 blocks, I have 10, 11, 12, 13. Because the number in my ones place is 4 or less, we're going to round down. So students would take the 3 away and be left with 10. 13 rounded to the nearest 10 is 10. Now the last number we have is the number 6. Number 6 is already in the ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because 6 is 5 or greater, we're going to round up. So students would have to add 4 to this 6 to round up to the nearest 10, which is 10. 6 rounded to the nearest 10 is 10. Now that we know how to look at our numbers and decide which number is in the ones place and whether we should round up or down, and we learn how to use the manipulatives, we can solve word problems. This says Amanda has 38 cookies. Using place value, round how many cookies Amanda has to the nearest 10. So I can write my number here, 38. I have 8 in the ones place. So because the number in my ones place is 5 or above, we're going to round up. 38 rounded to the nearest 10, if we round up, is 40. Amanda has about 40 cookies when we round to the nearest 10. Our next problem here says Jason has 11 race cars. Using place value, round how many race cars Jason has to the nearest 10. So I write my number 11. I can see the number in my ones place is 1. I have 1 ones, and because 1 is 4 or less, we're going to round down to the nearest 10. The nearest 10 to 11 is 10. Students can also use their base 10 blocks to solve these problems. So if I'm looking at the first one, Amanda had 38. Amanda had 38, so I have 30, 10, 20, 30. 8, and because 8 is greater than 5, we would add 2 to get to 40, and same for the number 11. Now that we've solved our word problems using our place values and our manipulatives, we can go ahead and look at our number lines here. So we can also use place value to round to the nearest 10 using number lines. So if we have the number 14, using this number line, we can see, if I go ahead and put 14, the number in the ones place on this number 14 is 4, and a number in the ones place that is 4 or less, we're going to round down. So we're going to round down to the number 10. So 14 rounded to the nearest 10 is 10. In this next problem, we have the number 26. We'll go ahead and bubble the number 26 in on our line graph, and we are trying to decide if 26 is closer to 20 or 30. Because the number in the ones place for 26 is 6, we're going to round up, and if I round up to my nearest 10, which is the number that ends in 0 that is closest to the number, it is 30. So 26 rounded to the nearest 10 is 30. Thank you for watching.